Kids knock bookcase over. Find room that wasn't there before. What to do? The boys wondered what they were supposed to do next. They wondered if it was a good idea to get into the dark space behind the bookcase, or if they should tell their parents all about it. They had to make a choice immediately. They glanced at one another and nodded hesitantly before slowly walking up to the space behind the wall. That's when they found the spiral staircase that led down into the dark. When they moved into their new house, their parents were ecstatic. They thought it was the best house they could have found. It had big rooms and a kitchen full of utilities. The boys had their own rooms and they found the new neighborhood refreshing. They were all very happy, but things would soon change. One day, the boys' parents went out to do some shopping. They smiled at them as they watched TV and said they'd be back in a few hours. They took their coats off the coat rack and locked the door behind them, but they had no idea what their kids would get up to in the meantime. As soon as they had free reign of the house, the kids went wild. They got into wrestling matches and jumped on all the couches. They were having fun roughhousing until one of them fell flat on their back. They knew they had screwed up. In the scuffle, they damaged a bookcase. It was an antique and one of their parents' prized assets in the house. There were so many old books that their parents loved. It was the centerpiece of the room and they knew their parents wouldn't be happy about the damage. At least his brother was okay. He hung onto the bookcase to stop his fall. The bookcase was sturdy and didn't fall at him at least. But then something neither of them anticipated happened. The bookcase started moving. They both screamed and jumbled back. It was as if it was falling, but it wasn't. But the boys couldn't believe what they saw. The bookcase was actually opening up from the inside. What was going on? The two stared at each other in disbelief. Did they break the bookcase? Who knew? Then they noticed a space behind the bookcase where it opened up, and they had no idea what was on the other side. There was no wall. An empty dark space greeted them instead. The teenagers stood there in silence. What did this mean? They looked at each other in bewilderment. It was so dark they couldn't discern what was hidden inside, but being teenagers, there was only one thing for it. They knew what they had to do. The teenagers were curious by nature. Who'd say no to a little indoor adventure? They were growing more excited by the second. What would they find down in the dark? The oldest ran to his room. He came back with a flashlight and took the first step inside, but his little brother wouldn't budge. The younger was staying behind, but after gathering some courage, he joined his sibling. One step inside and they knew something was definitely off. They swept the flashlight in all directions. At first glance, it seemed like a tiny little room with naked walls. 2 steps in and they knew it was no ordinary room. They spotted a staircase going down, a narrow spiral staircase they'd never seen before. Where would it lead? The excitement was fading away. The brothers never knew about this staircase. Did their parents know? Where did it go? Despite their fears, curiosity got the best of them. They slowly marched down the stairs. After a few steps and many stops, they brandished their flashlights ahead and gasped. They found themselves in a small, messy room with no windows, doors, or light. Maybe they landed in another dimension. That was the only plausible answer. The flashlight illuminated something on the floor that made their hearts race. Little did they know their adventure was just beginning. In the middle of the room was an old-looking wooden box. The teenagers had never seen it before. What could be inside? Did they dare open it? To their dismay, it was locked with a heavy padlock. A few swings of the flashlight beam revealed a mattress in the corner and what they were looking for, the key. But the other items that had been untidily tossed beside it on the mattress made them do a double take. On top of the old mattress, some garbage was scattered here and there, and some small objects lay on the floor that they were too afraid to touch. Then the siblings' little quest took a dark turn. The most sound decision would be to go back home and call their parents. Their parents may not even believe them, though. The brothers knew this conversation would sound like a prank and nothing more. One of them spotted a detail that would soon stop them in their tracks and speed up their decision. The younger brother stopped talking. He just pointed at something on the mattress. The teenager turned to see what he was referring to. A banana. A fresh banana. It couldn't have been there for more than a couple hours. That meant that whoever was eating that banana left the room in less than that time, and they might even be in the room at that exact moment. Feeling chills run down their spines, they looked at each other in panic. What was next to the banana was even more disturbing. Next to the banana, the flashlight reflected some crumpled colored paper. They took a closer look and the pair's skin crawled. They couldn't believe their eyes. It was a candy wrapper. A candy wrapper from the Halloween batch the kid had a few weeks ago. How did it get there? No one from the family ever went into that room. Whoever brought the candy there must have gone to their room, rummaged through their stuff, taken it, and gone back to the room without being noticed. They had to tell their parents. The siblings run upstairs in a frenzy, stumbling on a few. The older brother had picked up the phone with a trembling hand and called the parents. With a hushed voice, he explained what had happened. The parents couldn't believe what they heard. They didn't know what was waiting for them at home was even more incredible. The parents came home and found the two teenagers restlessly pacing down the living room. A quick glance over the bookcase and they understood the kids weren't lying. They ventured inside the dark space, down the staircase and into the room. They were stunned. As the first wave of shock passed, they started noticing some details around them, like those dolls, creepy old dolls. There were more and more of them as they looked around, and many more surprises were awaiting them. They knew this was hard to believe and didn't know what to do. The first reflex they had was pull out their phones and snap pics of everything they saw so far, and it wasn't pretty. They started snapping, first the mattress, then the key in the box that was presumably unlocked. No one had seen it before. Finally, they found a mini sculpture of an elephant. They go back up the stairs and all sit in the living room silently. What should they do? Was someone living under their roof all this time without them noticing? The couple started discussing their options. They were still shocked, however, they knew they needed help to figure it out. So they took to the internet, and the help they got was unexpected. They decided to post their pictures on the website Imgur under the username 2ByteBrownie. The responses explode. The phone was shining with those Imgur notifications. People were intrigued, horrified, and hooked. The post went viral, but people started growing suspicious. Not everyone was on board with that story. Many comments were condemning the pictures, saying the pictures were fake. Others said they were posted only to gather internet karma. But other users had concern in mind. People were concerned. How come there was a person or possibly more roaming around the house and no one noticing? What if they were dangerous? And more importantly, people were asking themselves, what if there was a person hiding in my home as well? But there was another question on everyone's lips. What about the box? What was inside? Unfortunately, we'll never know. But what we do know is that whatever it was, it unsettled the family so much they called the police. The original photos have since been deleted off Imgur and the account has been closed. But there was one update before the poster disappeared without a trace. I left to go to a friend's house while the police investigated. They found nobody there. 2ByteBrownie wrote on Imgur. They've told us the person was only living there temporarily, which doesn't make that much sense to me. But apparently he'd come in for periods of time then leave for a walk. There were no other entrances to the secret passage, though the person would have been using my parents' bedroom to access it. The walls are incredibly soundproof, which is probably how we didn't even notice. We were cleared to move back in today, but obviously we're not staying, just as a precaution, he added. My parents said that I was never allowed back in there again, and believe me, I tried. They actually went inside and boarded the whole place up. The story was reported on by many news outlets. 2ByteBrownie stays silent though. The user doesn't follow up on the post again, which leaves us all in the dark as to what happened next. Now that you know this story, do the pictures look legit to you? What would you do if you were in that family's shoes?